Hello, hello, hello. Well, thank you for being here with me once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor. And I have someone very special today. She has won multiple awards to glorify the Lord um, with her own journey. And she'll share more about it because she's the one that knows about her books. So thank you for being here with me today, Joanna. Hi, how are
Thank
you?
you. Thank you very much for having me. I am very well. Thank you. Um, thank you for
Yes.
inviting me.
What could you share a little bit about your story and also about those amazing books?
Yes. So I grew up in South Africa and I was one of five children and one of a twin as well. Um, when I turned 19, I lost my father. So when you are young, you don't really know about death and life and things like that. And you have a lot of dreams and aspirations for when you grow older. And then all of a sudden, your dad is taken away from you at the age of 19. And I did not know what I was going to do the next day. So he passed away from a heart attack. 3 years later, my twin sister was in hospital having a baby, and she lost her baby through childbirth, and the baby was stillborn. With the childbirth, she had to get an emergency cesarean because they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. And then all of that put everything in motion. Her blood pressure went high. She started to develop so much water that she developed preeclampsia, and she passed away 2 days later. We were 23 at that time. For approximately 6 years, it went well, no deaths. But in the meantime, I also had a divorce.
Mm.
And so that all those, like my dad and my twin sister's deaths, plus my divorce, really brought me into a place where I felt, I don't know, I can actually live without my twin sister anymore. And to say my dad, and then the man that I called my husband, um, we got a divorce, and it broke me. It broke me. And I almost took my own life at that time.
Mm.
I couldn't bear the pain because I wasn't strong enough to carry it. I always thought that I had God in my life because I did grow up in a house where my parents taught us about Jesus. Plus, my dad, he started to um, go into ministry and started to be more involved in the church and started to preach. And eventually, I mean, I was in church all the time. I thought, well, this is what I was taught, I was taught about God. But then later, you got married, and then I didn't go to church after my dad died. But I always knew I was a child of God because my husband that I married at the time was in a different religion. So I didn't go to church because he didn't want me to go to my church at that time. But I knew I was a child of God till I was so down and out, and I felt like life can just not go on. I then was invited to a church camp where one of my friends invited me over, and there I gave my heart to Jesus in a very special way, where I was sitting around a campfire and I was crying all the time when the pastor was speaking to everybody. And he then noticed that I was like wiping my tears. And he came closer to me eventually, and I looked up to him, and he touched my heart, my chest, and he's like, "Does this hurt?" Because he could see that I am going to burst anytime because I'm like wiping tears so many times. And when he said that, I could not speak. I immediately started to just break out in tears.
Mm.
And he then put his other hand on top of my head and he started to pray for me. Eventually, everybody that was sitting around the campfire touched my body wherever they could, while the pastor was praying for me. And in that moment, it felt like my heart was opening up. That
Mm.
heartache that I had was so sore when I went crying and he started to pray for me. I cried so much, like really, it felt like that my heart, my chest was opening up. And it felt like my heartache was taken out of me.
Mm.
And I cannot tell you, the next day I got baptized in the swimming pool with the other people who gave their heart to Jesus. And I gave my heart to Jesus that day. And I said, I will never let him go out of my life ever again.
Amen.
With him in my life, I can definitely get through a lot. In the meantime, I was in a mall where someone came in with a gun, a robber,
Oh,
and he ran right past me. And first, I've never really seen a real gun in real life. And all of a sudden, I just look and I'm like, what is that? A real gun? And he shot one of the girls that was working in the store with me at that time on that day. And I hear bang. And then all of a sudden I look, I'm like, oh my word, it's a real gun. Then he went straight up to her, shot her in the head, and then he shot himself. And I'm like, oh my word. So I had to witness that whole thing. And not that I want to say this much, but you have no idea how much blood can come out of one person. So that was kind of the biggest thing for me is to see all of that happening right in front of me.
so traumatizing. It seems like that it was so traumatizing that you got to see all that blood. I definitely could relate because I got to see my mother also in a way bleed to death. Um,
It is
not all
very
of it, but I did. So
traumatizing.
it's very traumatizing. I definitely could relate with you 100%. And then the fact, didn't you ever think that maybe, because it had to have passed through your mind, oh my gosh, what if he would have shot me instead of those girls? It could have been me because he just went right through me. And he
Yes,
and he actually most likely touched you and he pushed
he
himself through.
was like really so close to me because he came running in, but as he came running in, she started to scream. Now, at the time, I was not knowing that that was her ex-boyfriend that
Oh,
she broke up
wow.
with. And then he came to kill her because if he cannot have her, then nobody else can. So by the end of the day, he killed her. And well, I had to now have that in my mind as well, and I had to live with that. Luckily, the store organized some psychological help for us, and we saw a psychiatrist that week thereafter. And the session that I had with that person really, really helped me so much. So if I can ever tell someone, if you have experienced something dramatic like that as well, it's really good to go speak to someone because it's about just releasing it, you know. But then after that, I then met my new husband. And he never had children, so I now have two extra children from my new husband as well. So together I have four children. And my daughter then, she went to a friend's house and they got tied up in the friend's house with, there was four robbers that came into this friend's house, and my daughter was at the play date right there. I cannot tell you at that moment, when I got the phone call to say I must come and pick up my daughter
Mm.
and that they have just been through this ordeal. I told my husband that I don't care what he does, but he needs to get us out of this country because I cannot handle all the stress that I have to live with. You cannot even walk in the streets if you don't hold on to your purse, or feel safe if you are in your own home. You know, we are behind burglar proofing windows and doors and things, and then they still come into your house and tie you up and
Oh no.
hold guns to your head and knives to your throat. You know, that's what my daughter went through. And I told my husband that he needs to get us out of here because my kids, I need to give my kids a better future. Um, in the meantime, while he was looking for a position internal, because he was working for this company for a long time already. He's now with this company for, I think, approximately 27 years already. And he didn't want to work for anybody else because he likes what he's doing, you know, and it's a good company. And then in the meantime, my mom, they broke into my mom's house,
Oh no.
bad people again. And my mom's friend at the time, because now after my dad passed away, my mom then met this guy about, I think it was about 10 years later. She met this guy and they moved in together, and they were together for approximately a year. She was so happy for the first time after losing my twin sister. I mean, she lost her daughter and she lost her husband, you know. For the first time, she was happy again. And I was like so happy for my mom at that time that she found someone that could love her again, you know. I mean, yes, we are her children, but we can't give her the same kind of love that she actually needed, you know, and she found it. Then I just call him Uncle Jess. So Uncle Jess, he was still in the lounge area. My mom said she was going to go to bed because she wanted to go to bed earlier. You know, women go to bed earlier than men. They watch the news
Yes, that's very
and
true.
come to bed later or something like that. And in the meantime, the robbers came into their house
Oh no.
and they tied Uncle Jess up. In the meantime, my mother also started to fall asleep, not realizing that this was happening outside in the lounge. And all of a sudden, my mom's door opened up and it was dark, and her purse was on the table there. And the robber immediately started to scratch in her purse, which woke my mom up. And my mom thought it was Uncle Jess scratching in her purse. And she stood up on her side like this and she's like, Jess, what are you doing? And why are you scratching in my purse? And then the robber, the figure, it was like just dark, so it's like this dark figure came towards my mom and shot my mom.
Oh no.
It went in right here and it came out in the back.
Oh no.
So you won't believe it, but that day my mom survived,
Oh wow.
only to lose Uncle Jess a month later because of all the stress they've went through. Uncle Jess got a heart attack and died. So my mom was devastated, and she moved into a smaller place because she didn't want to live there anymore. She was scared of just living in her own place and things like that. And my mom started to just um, I'm sorry, I'm also not English, so I'm like looking for a
No,
word
no,
here now.
I understand. It was
My mom
very
started to
detrimental for your
kind of,
mom.
she started to not do well. Let me say, just let me use that word. She started to not do so well. So her body started to go bad and sad and lonely and depressed and anxious. So she constantly would say, oh, her stomach is so sore because of all the stress and the tension that she went
Hmm.
through. Her
Yes.
stomach was starting to eat her up, and starting to develop
No.
a stomach ulcer. And not long, my mom passed away from a bleeding stomach ulcer.
Hmm.
It's approximately a year later. My mom just deteriorated. There's the word that I was looking for. Deteriorated
Yes.
um, bit by bit. And when your heart's broken all over again, also, plus you have been through such a terrible ordeal, um, you
Mm.
depression and stress can really, it's a killer. It's a killer. So that is how my mom then eventually died.
Oh.
Then, not long after that, we decided that now we are going to immigrate. My husband found a job in America, in Minnesota, of all places. I've never seen snow. And my husband said, oh, we are going to Minnesota. And I'm like, where's that? He can get a job in Minnesota. I'm like, where's that? He says America. And I'm like, America? Yay! Let's go. Because what do you see on television? You see New York and you see Las Vegas and you see LA, Los Angeles. And then
Wow.
we come to Minnesota, of all places.
Most
And I've
definitely.
never seen snow and all of that. And it's like such a quiet little town that I live in, and I am so grateful that God has given us the opportunity to come and live here. And it took a long time for us to get here. We had to go through the right channels because if you do come from South Africa, you
Uh-huh.
have to go through the right channels to actually get your visa, to buy your air ticket, to come here, to be able to work legally and all of that. And I am just so grateful that God has opened these doors for us. As we landed in 2016, 2 weeks later, my little sister, my younger sister, called me and said, my big sister just passed away. And I'm like, what? So she passed away from I would say hernia. It's where the mesh of her stomach that keeps the intestines together
Yes, I
or
know.
inside the stomach had a little hole in it.
Oh,
And for two
no.
days, she didn't know something was wrong. And the hole kind of pinched her intestines together and it couldn't get fluids through her body. And she was started to feel weak. And she told her husband that he needs to take her to the hospital now because she's not feeling so well. And when she got to the hospital, she said that her stomach is sore and she can't keep food down. Then they did a quick check and they said that she needs an emergency operation because she's got a hole in her mesh, and it's pinching her intestines and the fluids cannot come through. So they put a IV in so that they can try to get her blood pressure to go up because her blood pressure just was so weak that they said no, she can go into a coma. So they cannot take the chance to do an operation. Now they first need to get her to be a little stronger. But in the meantime, she couldn't get any stronger and went into a coma that evening. And then a day and a half later, she passed away as her organs started to shut down because they didn't get the necessary um, fluids that she needed.
I'm so sorry to hear
So
about
then
this.
that was my mom, dad, my twin sister, and my big sister. So 2020 came, and my little sister, her husband called me all of a sudden and told me that she has just passed away in a car accident.
Oh no.
She was hijacked, and my sister must have felt that something wasn't right and that this guy who hijacked her or was in the car with her at that time um, is going to do something to her that she felt uneasy with. And my sister has also been through a terrible ordeal. She once went to work, and at the intersection, people are always standing at the intersections in South Africa, break the window, hit her with a brick against her face, and she put her foot down, and luckily she got away there.
Oh.
About 2, 3 months later, there were four robbers that came into the pharmacy she worked in, held them all up, stole money and everything. And again, a big, big tragedy that she had to go through, and all that stress and everything she had to go through. And all of a sudden now, this guy is in the car with her.
Hmm.
And I can just think what have happened, is that my sister tried to maybe fight with this person, maybe grab the steering wheel, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
to maybe think, maybe if I grab the steering wheel, we go off the road and the guy will run away and I'll be fine. But as the car went off the road, it bumped into a tree stump and the car started to roll. And as the car rolled, my sister was tossed out of the car and
Hmm.
died on the spot. The person who climbed out of the um, driver's seat um, looked over and he saw that she was not moving and he ran away. And you will not believe it, but actually, there is a video of this accident because there was a garage across from where the accident happened, a gas station. And this gas station had a video camera pointed to watch over the gas station. But the vehicle that my sister was in, you could see it through it from the camera. And I have watched that video over and over to try to see if I can see the person who was running away. But the perpetrator in South Africa, unfortunately, they don't even care. They don't care. It's just another lady that passed away through a dramatic, tragic accident. And yeah, so they never found the person who was in the car with her. Then I went to South Africa to go bury my sister. That was the 7th of March. She died. The 8th of March, I flew out. And that's when COVID started.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I was so stressed on the other side that I was not going to make it back before the gates closed. But luckily, they said that the gates are closing on the 19th of March. I flew back on the 18th of March and COVID hit. And eventually, I've lost so many friends and uncles and aunts to COVID. That has kind of like, oh my word, is this the end of the world?
Yeah.
And my brother, he was alcoholic for many years, and he was then the only person I had left over, but we didn't really have a very good relationship because I did not I did not enjoy being around him when he was drunk. And he tried many times to not drink and try to stop drinking, but eventually he stopped.
Hmm.
when COVID hit, and his body was just so weak. Um, and he started to get COVID. His lungs filled up with water and he couldn't breathe anymore. And his body was just too weak to handle everything. And I lost my brother that same year, October of 2020.
I'm extremely sorry of all your loss,
And
what you've gone through, Joanna. It's just detrimental. And as you know, this podcast has a certain amount of time, and I just want to make sure that we're careful on that. But there's a lot of people out there, just like you and I, that have lost a lot of close loved ones that are still hurting. Is there something that you could say to them? Because you know what it is to lose a loved one. I do too. What would you tell them? Because a lot of them don't know about Christ. What would you say, briefly, and how they could contact you as well with your amazing books?
yes, so after I've lost everybody, I needed to find a place where I can carry everything by myself. And a lot of people have started to not want to be my friends anymore either because she's grieving all the time. And I didn't have anybody eventually being in America as well. Um, then I started to write my book. So my book is called Life, Think Again, because life can be tough if you think about it. It's easy to die, but it's also difficult to die. And this is what I will tell people is that we need to live our lives to the fullest. And yes, I do have God in my life. And if it wasn't for having God in my life, I would have taken my life long ago.
Mm,
But eventually, if we look at the blessings that God puts in our lives, He has given me a second chance with a good husband. You know, He has given me two extra children. Now I have four. And then you have to kind of look at your blessings that God has given you with. Does God give you those blessings to take your own life eventually because you are sad and you cannot cope with your stress and your losses? I loved my family very dearly. I was in a dark place for a very long time,
mhm,
but I constantly prayed to become stronger because if I can get through this, maybe I can be an example for
mhm.
someone else
Yes.
to also live their life to the fullest and to have gone through so much grief. And because I have been in different stages of grief the whole time, I thought to myself, that
Mhm.
maybe this is the way I can help people is
Yes.
by writing my book, Navigating Through Losses and Grief, Think Again. And this book helps you to really navigate through each different stage of loss. And it just helps you to cope through that certain stage. I have really been in all five stages all at once, and to have come through it all and only with the help of God. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have been given a second life in America where I knew I'm going to now live a longer life because my stress levels is definitely much better. And I have now just published my third book yesterday, and it's called Unseen Tears Beneath the Mask. And in that book, I tell people how I have built up my resilience and how I have become so much more positive. that I want to share the story with the world,
Mhm.
and I want to help other people to remove the mask that they are wearing in their lives and to give their life to Jesus and just live their life to the fullest every single day. Because today is the day we have to live our lives because tomorrow is not promised.
Well, I
Today we
appreciate you
cannot get
coming.
back.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on my podcast, and I know that people will be following you and looking into your books. And with that said, thank you so much, Joanna, for being here with me today. It was such an honor and
Yes,
a privilege.
you're very
Have a wonderful
welcome.
day.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.